And once, this kid had a plastic box full of ants that he said he was farming. I stared at Owen. Farming? I asked. For food? Who knows? He shrugged. It's always a freak show, and they write detailed reports about you afterward, and staff pays a lot of attention to them. I felt a jolt of nervous energy. I still had nightmares about what had happened at my last school. I took 30 milligrams of monophasine every evening. It was supposed to help me sleep, help me forget. And don't talk to the women, Owen said. Nobody likes that. I wasn't going to, I said. I pulled off my jacket and plucked at my shirt, trying to circulate some air. Years ago, a Goodhouse boy named Ephraim had attacked a civilian girl on a community day. He'd been strangled to death by her father. Even I, a recent transfer to Ione, knew the story. I'm not going to end up like that Ephraim kid, I said. Then don't look all sweaty and bug-eyed, Owen said. More boys were pulling off their jackets. One student, a few yards from where we stood, actually fainted in the heat. Some boys cheered, and one called him a pussy. Proctors shouted at us to stand still. You want to know the real reason they strangled that Ephraim kid? Owen whispered, but I could tell his tone was playful. Never mind, I said. Forget it. Because he touched their ant farm, he said. Shut up, I said, and Owen punched my arm to warn me that our class leaders were passing. We both went silent and still. Class leaders had special uniforms. They wore the same denim pants we did, but their blue button-down shirts were a darker hue, and the school crest on the front pocket was embroidered in gold. Headmaster Tanner called these boys his right hand, the hand of correction. At my last school they had been different, more constrained. Here, it seemed, there were no limits. We had 2 leaders for our year. The first was named Creighton. He had ruddy skin, white blonde hair, and white eyebrows like albino caterpillars. He wasn't very tall, but he was thick in the chest. No one had been able to depose him. Our second class leader was Davis, a lanky black kid who always had a sweet expression on his face. Owen had nicknamed him Diablo, since he was friendly and solicitous, right until he punched you in the gut. The only way to become a class leader was to beat one of them senseless. But there was always the danger that you would fail and end up like Lowell, who was currently mopping the floor of the gymnasium, running into boys as if he didn't see them. There was a small but important dent in Lowell's forehead, and he often sang to himself, his voice flat and meandering, like he was speaking a different language. I'd been at this school since January, but I'd been in the Goodhouse system since I was 3 years old. The first thing they did when you entered the system was change the name you were given at birth. I once believed that I'd recognize my original name, that I'd know when another boy was called by it, that it would sound some bell inside me, trigger some alarm. The school had called me James, after St. James the Greater, an apostle who'd found God around the time he was run through with a sword. They said it was a name to grow into. Goodhouse had come out of an idea, a program meant to map the genetic profile of prison populations. What the researchers had found was this: the worst inmates, the most impulsive, the most violent, the least empathetic, all shared certain biometric markers. But these were prisoners. They cost the state millions of dollars to warehouse every year. And they'd been children once. They had not always been beyond help. It was too late for adults, but young boys were different. They could be molded, instructed, taught. If intervention occurred at an early age, they could be salvaged. And so, for the past 4 decades in America, genetic testing had been mandatory for the family of anyone who committed a violent felony. More and more people were being tested each year. More and more families were brought to the courthouse for a cheek swab, to be released if they were normal, to be registered if they were outside the age limit,